Over and over, I keep seeing this insane talking point pop up as a fear tactic, and I'm sick of it, so I'm going to make a video crushing it to pieces. I'll start out by showing you what I saw, which is this tweet thread by Congressman Eric Swalwell. Yes, that same idiot who unknowingly slept with Fang Fang, the Chinese spy, the idiot who farted on live TV.
The evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election.
And the idiot who threatened to nuke gun owners if they ever got a bit too uppity. Well, he's back at it with this rant on Twitter. Okay, so he says, I'm losing my COVID patience. I've tried to reason with the unvaxxed. I've directed some to medical pros. I don't judge, but hear them out and steer them to facts. The unvaxxed love to say it's about choice, but you know who doesn't have a choice? My 3 kids under 5. Blah, blah, blah. You have a right not to get vaxxed. Fine. Then business and government have a right to tell you that you're not welcome to patronize or you can't get on a plane. Because what right do you think you have to expose my kids to your COVID? As parents, let's own the outrage. Those loony carnival barkers at the school board meetings do not reflect where most parents are. Your unvaccinated status is creating new variants. So get your damn shot. Or stay inside your house, but don't mess with my kids. First off, there's so much bad logic in this, it's crazy. And I'm going to destroy the first point that he makes here. He uses the classic Fauci line of, well, yeah, rights are kind of a thing, I guess. I mean, we can maybe debate that later, but in an emergency, of our choosing, by the way, all that can be thrown away. So suck it up and do what we say. After all, what are you, a grandma killer? That's what they used to say. And looking at the numbers, there might have been an argument to be made for that, but now they've moved on to children. And even he says he tries to steer them towards the facts, which is just a flat-out lie. And as I always say, this is not a right or a left issue. This has nothing to do with what side you're on. This is a truth issue. If the left says 2 + 2 = 5, it doesn't become a right-wing talking point to correct that to 4. So let's look at the math here. According to the census, the population is 331.4 million, with 258.3 million being adults of 18 or over. So that means the total number of kids is 73.1 million. The total number of COVID deaths for kids aged 0 to 17 is 731, meaning the percentage of kids who've died from this virus is 0.001%. That's a 99.999 survival rating that Eric is apparently very worried about. But Eric's point gets even worse. There's 26.3 million kids aged 0 to 5, and according to the CDC, not Breitbart, not evil Fox News, not some right-leaning news source, there's only been 219 deaths from COVID. Okay, well that puts the percentage at 0.0008, meaning for 26.3 million little kids, the chance of surviving COVID is 99.9992. And keep in mind, these are numbers starting from the beginning of the pandemic to current day. This is almost 2 years of data now. So clearly, this is not a disease that really affects kids that much. As usual, they use kids as a weapon to emotionally manipulate you into giving in. They do this with school shootings as well. The bodies are still warm, and the left will be out there calling for gun control.
Cop, they're outgunned
But your
right
bodyguards would get to have any kind of gun they want to protect you, but I wouldn't
now.
have...
I don't want them to protect me. I want them to protect the people who are getting shot up in the schools.
But that's not... No, Capitol Police exists to protect you.
No, this isn't about Capitol Police.
Well, no, but it is, though.
It's not the kids who are dying, Tucker.
It's about me
in
and
their
my
schools. They're afraid to go to school tomorrow. They hear a book drop.
No, but hold on.
They think a shooter's walking into the classroom. Don't they deserve to be protected?
Yeah, they do. And
so
my
let's protect them.
Amen.
Now on to the next egregious thing he says. Blah, 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 you have a right to not get vaxxed. Fine. Yeah, you and your dumb rights, you stupid hick. And obviously, because of that right, Government and their buddies in massive corporations now have a right to retaliate and punish you. Take away your job, take away your grocery store, take away your health care. That's how rights work, apparently. Or take the Nuremberg Code on experiments. Rule number 1, the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. But according to Eric, I guess one of the bylaws is that the government reserves the right to destroy your way of life until you give in and volunteer. What other insane thing does he go on to say? You don't have the right to expose my kid, that will be perfectly fine, to your COVID, which you'll probably be okay as well. Your unvaxxed status is creating new variants. Oh, my unvaxxed status, huh? Okay, let's look at the variants going around. The Alpha variant was discovered in the UK. The Beta variant was discovered in South Africa. The Gamma variant was discovered in Japan. The Delta variant was discovered in India. Omicron was discovered in South Africa. It seems like it's literally everywhere but here that new variants are created. But nice try pinning that on us too. So get the damn shot, he says, or stay inside the house, but don't mess with my kids. And I want to frame this last sentence with something I learned from Jordan Peterson about panic disorders, and in particular, agoraphobia. Agoraphobia mainly affects middle-aged women. Well, women and men who act like women. Eric Swalwell. They're more susceptible to panic disorders, and at some point, these neurotic women have an event happen that triggers the move indoors. Well, first, to prime this even more, the women are usually highly sheltered as children, they're married young, they're highly dependent on their spouse to do most things for them, and then later in life, they encounter some stress, usually on their own. They're usually going through menopause. They might have a heart palpitation in the grocery store, and their first instinct is, I've got to go home. I'm not safe here. That instinct to go home, because I feel unsafe, is what starts the pattern of agoraphobia in someone's life. That's what drove all the lockdowns in the first place. I literally heard an example of this on the Sam Harris podcast with Flanagan, who I've brought up before by featuring her article in my video on abortion.
Well, I first want to say, Sam, that I think you saved my life because I am a person that has all these underlying conditions, and I was not taking this seriously as so many people were not. And I'd even been, I have to go to the doctor a lot, and I'd even asked the nurse, what about this COVID or Corona? Is this a problem? And she said, oh, it's not a problem. It's a flu. And you just take some, you drink a lot of fluids and you take some Tylenol. And it was so appealing to think that it was nothing. You want to believe the good news always. And so I was going along thinking everyone was hysterical. And then you just happened to send me a short email about something else. And at the bottom you said, be careful. This is shaping up to be a really big deal. And that caught me. I thought, Sam is really smart. And this is the kind of thing he would be really smart about. And that kind of sat in my mind, but I still had to go to a work lunch. And as I was sitting in the work lunch, noticing the restaurant wasn't nearly as crowded as usual, the guy I was interviewing and our phones kept going off with all these different things being canceled. And while he was sitting there, a job he had booked that was really important to his family economically, financially, I should say, dropped out. And so it was kind of just seeing someone in real time losing work and income. And I walked out of there, and I remember I never eat enough at a work lunch. I'm very nervous in work lunches, and I always, don't eat. And I was walking to the car, and I stopped in a drugstore, and I bought a candy bar, and I sat on it was a bench, a bus bench, a bus stop bench on Ventura Boulevard. And all of a sudden, I just thought, I need to go home. Sam Harris said this, I'm seeing a lot of signs in it, and I need to get home. And so I really personally have to thank you, because I would have been, and still may be, in really serious, serious trouble if I get this.
Now, thankfully, Caitlin snapped out of this phase and was even on Bill Maher talking about how ridiculous COVID restrictions have been, even as somebody with stage 4 cancer. My point with all of this is that the person who is terrified of the outside world and all of the potential and even downright minuscule dangers that it could pose is the person who needs to be locked inside their house. We never change the outside world to cater to agoraphobics, no matter how personally terrifying it is for them. We recognize that it is a them problem, not an us problem. The problem is in their own neurotic mind. They are terrified of drowning in an empty pool, not us. Which, speaking of pools, more kids drown every year in America than have died from COVID in 2 years. Of the 800 kids that died from drowning, more than half were under 5. So 400, or almost double the amount of COVID deaths of kids under 5 over the last 2 years. Well, where's Eric's sanctimony on that? Of course, if Eric can't sleep with it, or fart on it, or nuke it, the only thing he can do is ridicule it. That's about the extent of his problem-solving abilities, and you can't ridicule a pool. As with all things on the left, they project and accuse you of all the same things they actually do themselves. It's really them that should be locked in their house, terrified of the very air that is perfectly harmless. Not us. It's really them that use the my body, my choice argument non-ironically, and then they conveniently ignore the fact that an innocent child is a factor when they do use it. When it comes to climate change, oh man, it's all about the numbers and graphs and data this and data that. Of course, everything I pulled up today was a 5-second Google search away. In this case, the numbers mean nothing because this is an emotional appeal to stupid people, which is probably his whole voting bloc. So either Eric is too stupid to Google a few numbers, or he's a manipulative liar. But in his case, I think he's probably both. And either way, he's unfit for office. Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. If you enjoyed this video and type of content I'm making, please give this video a like or consider subscribing. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.